Somalia, a nation without a safety net. The moment you land in Mogadishu, you can feel it. The air is hot, the streets are loud, and everyone seems to be looking over their shoulder. Somalia isn't just unstable, it's one of the most dangerous places to live on Earth. Somalia sits on the Horn of Africa, with a coastline that stretches over 3,000 kilometers along the Indian Ocean. On paper, it looks like a prime location for trade and tourism. In reality, decades of civil war have left the country without a functioning central government for long stretches of time. Since 1991, when dictator Siad Barre was overthrown, Somalia has been a patchwork of clan-based territories, each with its own militias and rules. The chaos created space for piracy. In the late 2000s, Somali pirates became infamous for hijacking cargo ships in the Gulf of Aden. Between 2005 and 2012, they carried out over 200 attacks, capturing ships, demanding ransoms, and holding crews hostage for months. These weren't random fishermen. They operated like organized crime syndicates, with investors, logistics, and a whole black market economy behind them. On land, the threat is even more intense. The militant group Al-Shabaab, an Al-Qaeda affiliate, controls parts of the countryside and regularly carries out bombings and attacks in cities. One of the deadliest incidents happened in October 2017, when a truck packed with explosives detonated in Mogadishu, killing more than 500 people. It was one of the deadliest terrorist attacks in Africa's history. There's no safe zone. Even government buildings and hotels are frequent targets. For ordinary Somalis, daily life involves constant calculations. Which road is less likely to have a checkpoint? Which neighborhood won't be targeted today? Kidnappings, roadside bombs, and sudden gunfire are part of the background noise. Hospitals are under-resourced, the police are often powerless, and infrastructure is fragile. If something goes wrong, there's no real safety net. Today, Somalia is trying to rebuild, with international peacekeepers and slow government progress. But instability runs deep. In many ways, it's a country where people survive not because of the system, but despite the lack of one. Next, let's head east, to a country where danger isn't just on the streets, it's built into everyday life. Afghanistan, where danger is part of daily life. Afghanistan's landscape is breathtaking. Towering mountains, ancient cities, and valleys that look untouched. But under that beauty is a constant, invisible tension. Living here means living with the possibility of violence at any moment. For over 4 decades, Afghanistan has been at war. It started in 1979 with the Soviet invasion, followed by a civil war, then the rise of the Taliban. In the 1990s, the U.S. invasion in 2001, and finally the Taliban's return to power in 2021. That means most Afghans under 40 have never experienced lasting peace. Kabul, the capital, tells the story. One day, streets are crowded with taxis, vendors, and kids playing soccer. The next, a suicide bombing rips through a market. In May 2021, just months before the U.S. withdrawal, a car bomb exploded outside a girls' school in Kabul. Over 90 people, mostly teenage students, were killed. It was a brutal reminder. Nowhere is off limits. Rural areas are even more dangerous. Landmines left from past conflicts still litter the countryside, some dating back to the Soviet era. According to UN estimates, there are millions of unexploded mines across the country. Farmers plow fields knowing that one wrong step could end everything. Since the Taliban regained control, security has shifted, but not necessarily improved. The group enforces strict rules, often with violence. Minority groups, journalists, and women face constant threats. ISIS-K, an Islamic State affiliate, has also launched deadly attacks against civilians, adding another layer of danger. For ordinary people, danger isn't just bombs and bullets. It's the economy collapsing, hospitals running out of supplies, and the fear of saying the wrong thing in public. Safety is fragile, and trust is rare. If Somalia is a country without a state, Afghanistan is a country where the state itself is part of the risk. Next, we move to a place where a war has dragged on so long, it's become part of the landscape. Syria, living in a war that never ends. Before 2011, Syria was known for ancient cities like Damascus and Aleppo. bustling souks, and strong cultural traditions. Then the Arab Spring hit. Protests calling for political reforms turned into one of the deadliest civil wars of the 21st century. It started with peaceful demonstrations. In March 2011, the government responded with violence, arresting and torturing protesters. This sparked nationwide uprisings, armed resistance, and eventually full-blown war. Different factions emerged. The Syrian government, rebel groups, Kurdish forces, ISIS, foreign powers, all fighting for territory. Aleppo became the symbol of the war's brutality. Between 2012 and 2016, the city was divided. Government forces in the west, rebels in the east. Bombardments flattened neighborhoods. Hospitals were deliberately targeted. Civilians lived under siege, with no electricity, scarce food, and constant shelling. ISIS also carved out territory, turning Raqqa into their de facto capital. Public executions, brutal punishments, and strict control defined life there until coalition forces reclaimed the city in 2017. But victory didn't mean safety. The fighting scattered, morphing into smaller battles, airstrikes, and occasional terrorist attacks that continue today. The war has killed more than 500,000 people and displaced over 13 million, more than half of Syria's population. Even now, parts of the country are controlled by different groups, and airstrikes still happen. Basic services like water, electricity, and healthcare are unreliable. Many cities remain in ruins. For Syrians, danger isn't an event. It's the background. It's waking up to drones overhead, or worrying if the next checkpoint belongs to friend or foe. From here, we travel to a country torn apart not just by war, but by starvation and collapse. Yemen. The humanitarian crisis. Nobody sees. Yemen barely makes headlines anymore, but it should. The UN calls it the world's worst humanitarian crisis, and they're not exaggerating. The trouble started in 2014 when Houthi rebels seized the capital, Sana'a, forcing the president to flee. In 2015, a Saudi-led coalition intervened with airstrikes, hoping to restore the government. Instead, it turned into a grinding war with shifting front lines and massive civilian suffering. Yemen was already the poorest country in the Arabian Peninsula. The war pushed it to the brink. Airstrikes have hit markets, weddings, buses, and hospitals. In one 2018 incident, a bomb struck a school bus in Saada province, killing dozens of children. The blast was traced back to U.S.-supplied weaponry, sparking global outrage, but little changed. Beyond the bombs, starvation is the silent killer. Blockades and destroyed infrastructure have cut off food and medical supplies. As of recent UN reports, over 17 million people face food insecurity. Cholera outbreaks have infected millions because clean water systems collapsed. Hospitals operate without electricity, relying on generators that often fail. For civilians, the danger is constant. War from above, famine on the ground, and disease all around. Millions are displaced, living in makeshift camps with little hope of returning home. Yemen shows how a country can fall apart even when most of the world isn't watching. Next, let's go to a country that was supposed to be a fresh start, but became a battlefield almost from day one. South Sudan, born into chaos. In 2011, South Sudan became the world's newest country. There was hope, celebration, and a sense that decades of struggle had finally paid off. But within 2 years, the dream unraveled. Ethnic and political rivalries between President Salva Kiir and Vice President Riek Machar exploded into civil war in December 2013. What started as a power struggle turned into a brutal conflict that killed an estimated 400,000 people and displaced millions. Towns like Bor and Bentiu saw massacres, rape campaigns, and scorched earth tactics. The geography makes things worse. Vast swamps and poor infrastructure isolate communities, making humanitarian aid extremely difficult. During the rainy season, roads turn into mud rivers, cutting off entire regions. Ceasefires have come and gone. Peace deals were signed and broken. Even after a fragile unity government formed, in 2020, violence continued in many areas. Cattle raids, revenge killings, and militia clashes are regular occurrences. In some regions, young men grow up knowing little besides fighting. For ordinary South Sudanese, danger means more than just war. It's hunger, floods, and the complete lack of services. Schools are destroyed, hospitals are understaffed, and justice is nearly non-existent. A whole generation is growing up in instability. Finally, we head to a country where danger isn't about war. It's about control. North Korea, safety through fear. North Korea doesn't have daily bombings or an active civil war, but that doesn't make it safe. It's dangerous in a different way, through absolute suffocating control. The regime, led by Kim Jong-un, operates like a giant surveillance machine. The state monitors citizens through neighborhood committees, workplace reporting, and secret police. Criticizing the government can get you, and your entire family, sent to labor camps. These camps, known as Kwan Lee So, are brutal. Former prisoners describe forced labor, torture, starvation, and executions. Some are born there and die there without ever knowing the outside world. Famine is another threat. In the 1990s, a devastating famine killed an estimated 2 to 3 million people. Food insecurity continues today, with citizens relying on state rations that often fall short. Crossing the border illegally is punishable by imprisonment or worse. Then there's the risk of sudden collapse or military escalation. The regime's pursuit of nuclear weapons keeps the country isolated and under heavy sanctions. If something goes wrong, leadership struggles, border incidents, or economic collapse, ordinary citizens will bear the brunt. In North Korea, the danger isn't random. It's systemic. It's the kind of danger where survival depends on obedience. If you found this breakdown eye-opening, hit subscribe and tell us in the comments which country or topic you want us to dive into next.